Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. We are mighty. Wyoming is mighty. We may be the smallest state, but we are mighty because we could be one of 13. There were 13 original colonies. 13 states can stop the results of a constitutional convention. 13. That's all it takes. It takes 3/4 of the states to ratify a constitutional convention action. So, Mr. Chairman, that means it takes 1/4, 13 states to stop it. I'm good with that. Mr. Chairman, we can't fix this at the ballot box. There's no way. Because it's not the elected representative that caused the problems. They've caused plenty, but they haven't caused our form of government to stray from the little pocket constitution that we all know into the expanded constitution that we have today. That took the Supreme Court. And I don't want to beat on them because they've done some really amazing things. I was trying to think this morning, Chief Justice John Marshall, in the early 1800s, I think it was 1819, there was a court case about whether the United States of America could have a bank or not. There'd already been one bank, and then they kind of canceled it, and then they put one, they established a national bank, and the state of Maryland said, we're going to tax that bank. We don't think that that bank is part of the original purpose of the pocket constitution because it doesn't say the word banks. So the Supreme Court, under John Marshall, decided the case of McCulloch versus Maryland. And in McCulloch versus Maryland, they said that a national bank was part of the necessary and proper requirements of a constitution, of the Constitution to be able to effectuate our government. They made lots of analogies about things like we need to pay the army in distant places, we need a commissary, we need a bank. State said, no, you don't need a bank. Constitution's this thick. We didn't authorize a bank. Well, the court said a bank's okay. And that was the end of it. Because they'd already established judicial review in Marbury versus Madison. It came a few years earlier. I don't elect the people in the Supreme Court, Mr. Chairman. You don't elect the people in the Supreme Court. They're appointed. They're appointed for life. I think that's a good system. I'm not even criticizing those decisions, Mr. Chairman. They were landmark decisions that formed the framework of our government today. But that meant that this little book was expanded by the decisions, which I'm going to represent with this book. And so there's a little bit more there. We do not elect the Supreme Court. We cannot select this at the ballot box. We have to hope for people to die and elect the person that appoints them. I don't think that's a very good system, and it hasn't worked very well. So we've gone from the, you know, every Supreme Court decision it tends to be expansionary, I suppose, Mr. Chairman, and each one on the increment might make a lot of sense to some of us it doesn't. But government grows. The boundaries of the federal government have grown. The necessary proper clauses allow that to happen. Court rulings have allowed that to happen. The only way to reverse a court decision is to change the text of the Constitution. Now there's where we got a ballot box problem, because the two things that can propose to change the text of the Constitution are the United States Congress and the states of the United States of America. Now there is a ballot box issue on that one. I give you that one. We could elect members of Congress and the Senate that would decide to change the Constitution, would put forth constitutional changes to limit government. You know, we have things about, well, have we expanded the War Powers Act so that really war is occurring without a declaration of Congress? Are we concerned about our fiscal responsibility? The thing is, though, the interpretation is by the courts, and we don't elect the courts. Our biggest, strongest stick is the ability to say that we want change. And so, Mr. Chairman, I don't know about you, but it seems that people get elected to Congress. They're kind of like people that get elected to the Wyoming legislature. They campaign and run around and say, they're going to come down here and we're going to fix this and fix that and fix that. And you find out it's not as easy as you thought. And that there's some of the old dogs that are down there and they're pretty dug in. Can't get them to move. And it's probably the same thing in Congress, Mr. Chairman, but that doesn't seem to be a satisfactory solution. Because everybody we send there says they're going to do something and they get caught up in a morass. It's a sticky morass. You know, our forefathers thought that serving in the Congress of the United States would be kind of a part-time job. You'd be a citizen legislature. They really believe that. It is so far from that. And they kind of forgot about listening to us a little bit. They do. They're good people. We elect good people. They're good to our state. But it's a very complicated job. Just like each one of us, when we were first elected, with all these ideas about how simple it would be to change things, found out it was a lot more complicated than you thought. But we do have the ability to call a constitutional convention. And I think it'd be really healthy. I think it'd be good for the country. When the first constitutional convention happened and we had a constitution that had to be proposed and ratified by the states, Mr. Chairman, that was the most exciting time on this continent. Great debates were held about the Constitution. Coffee shops, or tea shops, maybe at that time, or maybe we were done with tea and we're going to coffee now. That was the topic of the day. Learned treatises were published in the newspapers of the time, and people sat down and they debated, and it was good for America. I think the same thing could happen again. We could propose this, and if we could have a debate about whether things are going to go. And I think it's going to be kind of a tweaking. There's lots of good still in the Constitution. There's so much good. Nobody wants to throw it away. We just say, you went a little too far in this. We didn't expect to have debt like this. We didn't expect people to serve for so long. We want restraint. We don't want to throw this thing out. We love it. We just want tweaks. And I think that it's only would be tweaks that what the states would agree to. Because it takes 38 states that would have to agree to those tweaks. States like Western states like us that have the same kind of fundamental. We're with Utah and Idaho and Montana and North Dakota, South Dakota. I can get up to 13 states with strong, conservative, Western values about personal feelings pretty fast. Those are the people, just like the 13 colonies, will make sure that this isn't a runaway. It's going to be okay, Mr. Chairman. Let's try this out. Because allowing the courts to have, and it's established in the Constitution, but everything has its time and movement. And now we need to say, courts, we think you've gone a little too far. And members of Congress, we think you need to pay a little bit more attention to us. And we're one of 3/4 of the states that support that. Or if we don't like it, we're one of 13 that says, no way. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator.